Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of Royal Mystic Collective Wisdom. And I want to give you a little bit of information on how I came to be Royal Mystic and what some of the things that happened along the way, including um, losing myself to find myself. This is one of the most profound things I've ever done in my life was to sit down and actually record readings and allow myself to step into what I feel like is now my truth. And I felt that before, but there was always a fear attached to it. Um, so we'll go all the way back to when I can remember some of the first times that I had psychic events happening. You can tell when you're a child when you're doing something abnormal because adults start to act very strange. It's almost like they're frozen and they're afraid to move because what they're witnessing is a child telling them some kind of information that only they knew, or that um, they there's no way that they know there's no way that no one else could have given that child that information. It usually happens when a child is open and available and is allowing this information to come in. I can't tell you where I was getting it from, other than I knew it was from God, which is also another inexplicable thing. People who are ultra religious are often very close minded to the fact that God can work through other people. And because they don't have the ability, sometimes they can um, try to. It's the Bible and all of history is full of people trying to call these people heretics, and really it goes very badly for the person who's communicating the information. The old phrase "killing the messenger" really comes to mind. And that's part of the reason why you're afraid to tell people. You don't want people to know because you're afraid, A, they're going to label you as a quack or as a flake or as woo woo. That's another name for it. Um, so when my mother recognized that there was something very special happening. It would happen suddenly. I wouldn't ask for it. It just information came. There were many events. One of them was a truck that had a blowout, and right before the truck had a blowout, something screamed to me, get over, get over, the tire's going to blow. And that's what I screamed out loud. And I literally reached for the wheel, and I'm only like 9 at the time. And we avoided being hit by a truck that jackknifed immediately to our right because she had gotten into the furthest lane away from it. So that gets your attention, and you also, it scares you. It's scary, and it's all of these things. And I'm just bringing a voice to that because I want you to know that you may have had these experiences and written them off as a child and forgotten about them. Because one of my major events was that I had tarot cards given to me at 10 years old, and I could hear them talking. I mean, they were like in my head giving me information. And to me, um, anything that had death on it or the devil on it, I felt like because of all the movies that were out at the time showed anybody who was gifted in that way, it was probably something demonic, or, because that's when Carrie and The Exorcist and there's another, Damien the Omen was out. And these are things that you become very aware of, that there might be unintentional interaction with something you don't want to get hold of. So, because everybody's telling you it's you're talking, you don't know who's talking back. And so it never was that I was actually trying to reach out and touch anything. It was calling to me, it was telling me things. And it was in my own voice most of the time. While I was young, it was my own voice. Um, it's very unsettling, A, and B, you don't know who you can trust with the information. And you don't understand it as a child. So the card scared me so much that I literally blocked out that that even happened until later in my life when someone gave me some cards again. And I started using the cards and I could hear the talking again. And I remembered, oh my God, that's why I put these down, because there were two cards in particular, the death card and the devil card, that even while I was beginning my process of allowing myself to do the readings, I would immediately get that strike of fear in my heart every time they would show up. And I would have to overcome that and keep the reading on track. Right. And it was just a trained response for me rather than information. So one of the reasons I started this podcast was to allow myself to give the information to people who are seeking and to understand what's going on and why they feel certain ways. So one of the things that comes with being a reader is the sense of or even psychic at all, letting your abilities, you don't even have to be being a tarot reader. Part of being intuitive and psychic is the sense of dread or doom or immediacy of something. That's always scary because you don't know what it is. And we can't fully know all the time. We just have to follow what's being given to us. It's almost like they give you just enough so that you understand it's important. And then you must act on it, because remember, you still have free will. So you can say no. And that's the whole point, is at any time, you can still say no. You can choose not to follow it. You can choose not to listen or believe it. It won't change the trajectory, but it might change yours. Right. So, and it can just hold you longer in the place you're at to where you finally do get it and understand and move forward. It just means if you don't understand it, you should probably seek the explanation or understanding of anything that scares you, because that will allow you to release it, and then you can move forward, because it will hold you in that stuck energy until it's time for you, until you get it. You're just going to keep looping until you get the lesson. Everything's a lesson or a blessing. And then that's true. So part of my journey as an adult became, and the reason I ended up looping back to being psychic, is I had pushed it away for a very long time. And I started having issues after my parents passed of trying to grapple with where my place was in the world. You feel very untethered when both your parents pass, because they were very close in proximity. And the only person that was still really connected to me was my son. I had family members scattered out, but I really wasn't connected to them and I didn't really know them. So it was not until I started to have the feeling of literally coming apart at the seams, because I wasn't grounded and I had suffered a great loss, and my mind's normal boundaries were being stretched to the limit. And I went to a friend and I said, I feel like I'm losing my mind. And they gave me 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, The Psychology of Achievement, um, various different things. I think one of the first Wayne Dyer books that I got was from this person. And of course, I started to seek out the self help stuff because I was trying to understand why my life had turned out this way and how I could get it back on track, because I had obviously missed something. And when I started to do that, I started to also seek out spiritual information, and the tarot cards were given to me several years later by a friend. And that started a different awakening, right, within myself, of understanding the tarot as a path to life. And so, briefly, my explanation of the tarot is it's the hero's journey. And when you see me reading the major arcana cards and you hear me saying these things about these cards that are not the suits, they're not the pentacles, they're not the swords. I'm talking about the Tower card, the Wheel of Fortune, Star card, the Fool. The whole story of that first major arcana set of cards is the Fool's journey and the people he meets along the way and the stages he goes through of understanding and growth, to where he gets to the paradox of the change, the cycle change, the understanding, and then he blossoms out into the next cycle. So it is really a true gauge of some of the things that you will be facing in your lifetime, which I find the stories they give me, when I talk about downloads, I do dream about the cards, different cards. At certain times, I'll get a new upload and get a new understanding of that card. And so my variations of energy change. If you don't hear me say the names of the cards in the readings, it's because I'm in the flow of the consciousness and not in the logic of the card. I'm not looking at the card as that face value. I'm getting a download at the time. And I try to be very authentic to that energy. One of the things that I can remember being a big changing moment for me was after my parents died. All I could think of to myself was, this is not where I'm supposed to be. There is more to life than this. And I need to get about the business of doing it. And many times I was hearing my name being called, wake me up from sleep, it's calling my name. Various voices that I did recognize. Some of them sounded like my son, some of them sounded like my parents, but they were always, it felt like they were trying to alert me, to wake me up. And that started a whole cycle of understanding and learning. And still, you got to remember, you'll still be reluctant in your human mind to accept whatever your gift is. Because so in my adult life, around, I guess it's about 10 years ago. Yeah, about 10 years ago, a friend of mine, kind of hornswoggled me into going to, that's a technical term, by the way, hornswoggle. It really just kind of convinced me to go to this class with her. She had taken one of the other courses in mediumship, and this woman that we trusted was doing a class on tarot. And I was like, oh, there's going to be a bunch of cat ladies there. And okay, I'm going to go. So, I did all this vacillating back and forth. And finally, I went. And the rest is literally history, because there was that moment is when I understood and was shown that my gift was extraordinary and that I wasn't making it up. It wasn't something that I was consciously even aware of where the information was coming from, other than I know it was from a good source, because I did not feel negative, or nothing I was saying was negative. So yeah, from the very first night, I channeled a lot of energy and could see through my eyelids, even though my eyes were closed. I could see just like they were not. And that was like my experience. I was like, oh my God, this is weird, right? I'm opening and closing my eyes, and people around me are not really paying attention, other than when I started to talk, as I opened my eyes at the end, everyone turned around in their chairs and were looking at me with their mouths open. And that was my moment to go, oh, okay. There is something here. I'm supposed to be doing this. And so I got more serious about it and started to practice. And for some reason, I knew immediately that I was going to be using more than one deck. We were being taught with one deck, but I knew I was supposed to use more than one. And I knew it was going to be online, but I didn't know how. And so there's many places you can go as a psychic to work for other people. It's not exactly the premium pay, but you can do it. And so I just kept my everyday job and was doing my research and practicing. And I went to a Halloween party by the little group of, our little group of ladies that had gone through the class together. One of them had a little house party. So, little ladies only. And I did readings for them, and that was fun. And then right after that, another one's friend had a Halloween party. So I went to the Halloween party. And I had made a substantial amount of money by doing both of those parties. And on Halloween, not really, this was one of those times where you just do something and you don't realize that you're setting up this big vortex to happen. And so, yeah, I literally circled my finger at the ceiling, which is a thing. And I didn't realize that at the time. If you circle your finger to the right, like a clock in clockwise, you are sending it up to the universe, which I was doing. And if you circle your finger to the left, you're grounding down to the earth. So I was doing circle finger toward the right, toward the universe. And I go, okay, universe, this is the thing I want you to know. There doesn't have to be, this is me saying on a sidebar, side note here, quote unquote, you don't have to use any pomp and circumstance, and the universe doesn't care if you're being a smart ass. And so I smartassly side eye the universe up to the ceiling and go, okay, universe, if you can work some of this out on the regular, you just tell me where to show up. And I forget about it. And 3 days later, that's a Wednesday. And on Friday, a voice wakes me up at 5:30 in the morning going, get on YouTube. And it's right in my ear, just right. I can feel the breath practically. And I don't wake up till 6:30 because I didn't have to be at work till 7:30. So I didn't appreciate being woken up at 5:30. But it's like I felt like I've woken up from a dream, but I felt the breath on me saying, get on YouTube. And I sat there, looked around, and thought, YouTube? How am I going to make any money on YouTube? I don't have time to just record videos. I have to go to work. So I got up and said, just let me get ready for work. I felt really strange about the dream, like it was very real, but I couldn't explain it. And you know how dreams are, they just kind of fade after a few hours. You just kind of forget what they're about. Well, the next morning, it didn't forget. It woke me up with the same voice, but louder and more insistent. Get on YouTube now. And that's when I said, okay. I got up. My son was already awake. And I said, put the thing on. This is what you, I did not even know how to use or access YouTube. I wasn't a YouTube watcher, and I'd watched a few videos, but they were from people sending me videos, not because I was searching them out. I had used a video on how to fix a dryer, but I didn't realize that I had just Googled it and it came up in the Google, right? I'm not computer illiterate. I just wasn't, part of the YouTube movement at the time. And so I Googled, and my son actually did. He searched in YouTube, and we found some readers, and there were some really good ones and some really not so good ones. And I allowed myself for 3 months to learn and to understand and watch and see how other people did it, and then make my own variation. And I promised I would try it, while all the time asking myself, was I just crazy? I literally asked myself if I was batshit crazy. And I started the process and got online and started my first video out, my first series of videos, January 1st of 2018. And the rest is history because I have only grown and grown and grown from there. And this is why when I tell you, you don't have to know how. The universe will show you. It will take you by the hand as long as you're willing to participate, and it will take you exactly where you need to go and give you all that you need to be given. The information will show up because I didn't know how to record a video and get it up on YouTube. I didn't know how to frame a shot. I didn't know how to focus. I didn't know how to do any of it. I didn't know how to edit, none of it. And I learned as I went. I was willing to try and willing to make mistakes and not have to be perfect. And that's the story of how I became Royal Mystic Tarot. I will never say that it wasn't meant to be, because this is the most wonderful thing I've ever done in my life. It never feels like work. I love what I do. And I am so happy to be able to help people. And that's really my goal. Is I want other people like me who need the extra affirmation and the assurance that you can change your life. You can live your best possible life by being true to yourself and not listening to doubters and not listening to other people's opinions of you, because those are really not your business. That's their spectrum. That's their viewpoint. You're viewing you from within. They can't see that. You know who you are in your heart. And you know when you are doing something that is valid, you know it. You know when it's your thing because it resonates with your heart. When I watched the people on YouTube for the very first time do tarot, my heart rang like a bell. I mean, literally, it was like somebody struck a gong within me. My body vibrated with the authenticity of it. I knew it was my thing immediately. I have always been in a place of continuously learning. So while I've been doing all of the tarot readings, I'm also learning. I've learned about crystals and geometric patterns. And I was also a live reader for a time at a shop called The Witchery. And that was another facing my fear, because I had already started the channel and was going pretty good. Then I had to do an audition for the owner. And I understand why, because they want to make sure they've got a valid person in there. But it was very intimidating, and I had to push past all the anxiety of letting someone who I felt was very qualified assess my abilities. And I got the job. But the channel became so busy that I only got to keep it for 4 months. And but that's not a bad thing. I love you guys. I'm glad to be doing this, because that was one of the most taxing times of me using my ability, having to do 20 plus readings a day. And I realized very quickly I was grateful to have the channel, and I was glad I'd already started it, because that was hard work. And I can't imagine having to be a tarot reader or psychic in the time before there was social media, because that would have been such an arduous task. So I want you guys to understand your path will be shown as you step into the faith of doing it. You cannot know ahead of time how it's going to turn out, because that's all up to you. Feeling the fear and doing it anyway is the only true way to find your bearings and to understand what you do and do not have the ability to do, or the calling to do. It is a continuous journey, and it's full of rewarding, wonderful moments. And there's also fear that constantly tags along. And that's why I tell you guys in the readings, the affirmations are to help you stand in the face of fear, believe in yourself, and pull yourself through whatever that moment is and get past it so that you can continue to strive and move forward. And I hope that that information helps you. And I send you love and light and abundance. I hope you all have a beautiful holiday. And I will be putting out another one of these right around the day after Christmas, I think, probably Sunday. So I send you blessings, happy holidays, and listen to your truth within yourself. Your heart always knows, even when you're scared, especially if it scares you when you think about it. Examine where the fear is coming from and continue to move forward. Because some of my fear was just that I was afraid of the tarot because I didn't understand that the voices coming through were my guides and were my ability to connect to source, and that I didn't have to be afraid. So very often it's the fear, not the actual task, that will turn you away from something. So be brave, feel the fear, and do it anyway, my friends. Many blessings to you all, and I will talk to you next week. Namaste.